Games 2025. Hey everyone, Game Like here. The first half of this year is already behind us. We got some awesome games like Avowed, the Oblivion Remaster, Dune Awakening, and a bunch more. Trust me, looking at what's coming in the second half, you won't be disappointed either. Today, I'm showing you everything confirmed for release before the end of the year, assuming no surprise delays, of course. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's dive in. Grounded 2. Starting off strong with a sequel from Obsidian. You know the game, you play as tiny people thrown into a microscopic world, full of spiders and bugs. Grounded 2 hits in just a couple of weeks, on July 29th. The devs built on the first game's idea. You're shrunk down again, but this time exploring a massive park with new biomes, a mysterious watcher, and tons of secrets. It's still an open-world survival game with up to 4-player co-op, focusing on exploration, crafting, and fighting giant insects, with some RPG elements for character progression. A big new feature. Bugs are basically Pokémon now. You can tame and raise them, and they can become mounts, farm helpers, or even battle tanks. Visually, it looks pretty similar. So overall, it's the first game but upgraded across the board. Considering the devs now know how to make these survival games well, the only downside: Russian language support isn't planned yet. We definitely won't be thanking Obsidian for that decision. Dying Light, the Beast. Next up, a new Dying Light. This one drops a bit later, on August 22nd. The devs brought Kyle Crane back from the first game as the main character. After some experiments, he wakes up in the abandoned Cider Woods Valley, think Swiss Alps vibes, and has to survive hordes of zombies, mutants, and hostile human factions. It's another open-world action RPG where you explore a huge map, complete missions, and uncover the story behind Crane's mutation, focusing on the signature parkour across rooftops, melee combat with improvised weapons, and now full-blown off-road driving with vehicles. The funny part: originally, the devs planned this as just DLC, but they went so overboard with content that it became too much for DLC, so they rebuilt it into a full standalone game. The key feature is the Beast mode, hence the title. This mutation gives you superpowers, boosting your strength to tear through enemies barehanded, jumping like a superhero, or regenerating health mid-fight. It spices up the usual human gameplay, which could be cool as long as the story is actually interesting. Dying Light stories are usually just okay. Killing Floor 3. After several delays and closed beta tests, where select hardcore players got to try new mechanics and complain about things like the lack of classic zombies, Killing Floor 3 finally launches on July 24th. For anyone who forgot the legend, it's the same 6-player co-op shooter where you play as corporate mercenaries in 2091, fighting off waves of mutants in a post-apocalyptic world. The gameplay is pure survival. Pick your class, like Berserker or Medic, farm Dosh. That's the in-game cache, and between waves, buy and upgrade weapons ranging from pistols to plasma blasters. It's running on Unreal Engine 5, so compared to the older second game, it looks way better. Naturally, there's more content too. New zombies, weapon customization with mods, big boss fights, all that good stuff. Matches are short, lasting 10 to 20 waves, but replayability comes from random events and community mods. It's literally the perfect game to blow off steam and have some mindless fun. Plus, you can play it not just on PC, but also on smartphones, tablets, or even the Nintendo Switch in different modes. Arc Raiders. This is one game I am absolutely pumped for. Arc Raiders. It's this gorgeous, gritty co-op extraction shooter from Embark Studios. These are the same folks who used to work on Battlefield at DICE and just recently dropped the awesome game The Finals. Back in 2023, the devs already ran a couple of tech tests for Arc Raiders. Testers got hands-on with the alpha and second tech test. They loved how fast-paced the combat felt, but they mentioned issues with balance and asked for more content, like new gadgets and, of course, more maps. Maps were definitely a bit of a pain point. Quick rundown if you haven't heard. You play as raiders dropping down from orbit into the Rust Belt. It's this huge zone full of ruins where you need to loot ancient artifacts, fight enemies like robots, and compete with other player teams for loot and the way out. Stick around past the timer. A tactical nuke levels the place, and you lose everything you grabbed. Gameplay is third person, focusing way more on tactics than mindless shooting. You pick your loadout before a match, use gadgets, and try to escape with the loot without catching bullets from rivals. Time to kill was pretty long back in the tests, by the way. Super happy to hear it's gonna be free to play, most likely just like the finals, so expect a winner. I really dug it during the tests. Mafia The Old Country. The new Mafia game. Gotta be honest right away, I am deeply skeptical about this one. I talked about this over on GameLike when the devs dropped the gameplay footage. Anyway, back to Mafia. Why the skepticism? Yeah, the game moves to Sicily, supposed birthplace of the Mafia, early 1900s, brutal traditions, the rise of organized crime. It might feel right based on the videos, but unlike the previous games, there's no open world here. It's a completely linear action-adventure game, banking on a supposedly strong narrative. Story-wise for Mafia games, I usually don't worry too much. They usually nail that part. You play as a young Sicilian guy forced to join the Mafia to survive. You do missions, take out targets, steal stuff, get revenge, climb the ranks. Basically, the usual. Gameplay mixes gunfights with period weapons, melee combat, and driving old-timey cars or riding horses, focusing on stealth and tactics in tight alleys, village streets, or even fields. But watching the trailers, I just can't shake this feeling that everything looks kinda flat and lifeless, like the game is missing depth. Maybe it's just the trailers, and playing it will feel different. The devs even went the extra mile with language, adding authentic Sicilian dialogue. So fingers crossed, but I wouldn't get my hopes up too high. Gears of War Reloaded. Let's touch on some upcoming remasters. First up is the new old Gears of War Reloaded. It's a remaster of the original 2006 game. You step into the boots of Marcus Phoenix, an ex-soldier fighting underground monsters, the Locust Horde, on the planet Sierra. The campaign is a linear third-person shooter, built around its cover system. That means you spend a lot of time ducking behind cover and popping up to shoot enemies who are doing the exact same thing. That style was super popular back in the day. Story-wise, you're doing various missions to save the world, of course. Expect brutal close quarters combat with gory finishers too. It is Gears of War after all. It is co-op for 2 players, either local or online. Plus, they're supposedly adding multiplayer modes back in. Back in June, there was a beta, and people were really praising the game for its graphics on Unreal Engine 5 and solid optimization, which is pure gold these days. The remaster also features destructible environments that change up combat tactics, plus epic bosses that demand teamwork between you and your wingman. Basically, it's the classic awesome game in a shiny new wrapper. Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. We've got a pretty similar situation brewing with the new Metal Gear Solid. Well, actually, not brand new. It's a remake of the legendary third game from Konami, landing August 28th. The developers promise a full rebuild on Unreal Engine 5, but there's one massive downside. They're remaking it without Hideo Kojima involved. As you know, the genius is busy with his own masterpiece project, Death Stranding 2, so he's got zero involvement here. You step back into the boots of Snake in the 1964 jungles. Gameplay-wise, it's still that classic stealth action with survival elements. You'll infiltrate bases, avoid patrols, carry out sabotage missions, and unravel conspiracies. The tactical depth remains key. Camouflage to blend with the environment, hunting animals for food. Yeah, you eat snakes and frogs to restore stamina, plus close quarters combat with grabs and throws. Based on previews from Gamescom and State of Play, they didn't screw the game up, which is good news already. They even praised the updated visuals with detailed jungles and dynamic lighting. Plus, there are 2 control schemes, classic for nostalgia and a modern over-the-shoulder third-person view for convenience. Overall, it might actually turn out okay. It probably won't reach those original genius heights, you know why. But it'll likely still be a competent game. Hell is us. All right, shifting gears back to totally new games. Up next, Hell is Us. This one lands September 4th, and if you spring for the deluxe editions, you can jump in 3 days early. It's coming from Rogue Factor, a Canadian studio. You might know them from The Inquisitor. And this time they're bringing us a third-person action-adventure set in a post-apocalyptic world. You play a survivor in a fractured Europe ripped apart by civil war, where some random supernatural catastrophe spawned monsters. The gameplay is all about exploration, aiming for maximum realism. What does that mean? Get ready for no HUD, no compass, no markers, no objective pointers on screen. You find your way purely through environmental clues, dialogue snippets, and notes you discover. Welcome to the early 2000s, right? Where you might spend an hour figuring out a minor puzzle, because the game just won't hold your hand. On top of that, expect pretty intense melee combat using makeshift weapons. Think improvised swords, axes, stuff cobbled together from scrap. The game had a demo back in June, and testers praised the immersive atmosphere and the tactical combat. Monsters have specific weaknesses you need to figure out mid-fight, and pulling off combo attacks requires careful timing so you don't eat a monster's hit at the wrong moment. There's weapon crafting using scavenged materials, survival mechanics with some light RPG elements. Progression comes from XP earned in fights, and yeah, just plain exploring. The story is non-linear. You're searching for family while uncovering lore about that mysterious catastrophe. Bottom line, if you're a fan of Souls-likes like I am, but with a twist on world exploration, think Death Stranding or those old-school Resident Evils, this game will probably grab you. Borderlands 4, the fourth Borderlands game. A continuation of the legend we grew up playing. Gearbox is back with their signature craziness and meme-filled announcements, finally rolling out Borderlands 4. It drops September 12th. This is that same classic looter shooter in an open world, where you play as a vault hunter on the new planet of Elridge. It's packed with psychotic gangs, alien beasts, and ancient ruins. Basically, everything you'd expect. Assemble a crew of 4 distinct classes, tackle missions for clearing zones, looting gear, and uncovering vault lore. Same as always. Blast through hordes of enemies with a billion random guns, from acid-spewing pistols to grenade launchers that drop landmines. Cruise in custom vehicles and battle it out in co-op for up to 4 players. You can play solo too, just like before. The core mechanics are seriously upgraded this time. Each class has deep skill trees with branches for different playstyles. Stealth with gadgets, pure tanking, you name it. Plus, there's a new active ability system where you combo powers together, like freezing enemies, and then shattering them with explosions. Since character skills synergize, co-op play is definitely the way to go. Fingers crossed they balance it properly for co-op, so it doesn't just turn into a speedrun where players are racing past each other. Silent Hill F. The brand new Silent Hill F. Almost nobody knows anything concrete about this one yet. It releases September 2024, so let's finally figure out what this thing is. The developers are sending us to 1960s Japan. We play as a fragile soul, exploring a haunted town. The gameplay. Classic psychological horror with exploration. Wander foggy streets, solve puzzles based on Japanese folklore. Try to avoid, or fail to avoid, fights with monsters. The whole game hinges on atmosphere. There's no traditional weaponry. You rely on stealth and the environment just to survive. Plus, expect dynamic world shifts like the series' classics, where reality twists into hellish nightmares with bloody walls and disturbing creatures. From the gameplay shown at State of Play in June, people really praised the sound design, music and effects by Akira Yamaoka. It's intense, really gets under your skin. Also, the Unreal 5 engine seems perfect for horror, thanks to its realism. Bottom line, if you're a fan of Japanese horror like Fatal Frame or the old Silent Hill games, you'll likely get hooked by the deep lore that doesn't rely on cheap jump scares. The fear here is psychological, all in your head. There are also non-linear story branches, where your choices actually impact things. Kingmakers. This is Kingmakers, where history bows down to your machine gun as you stare through its sights at a crowd of knights utterly baffled by this strange metal tube. Clearly, knights back then were more accustomed to polished pikes. The game launches October 8th. It's an action strategy hybrid where you, a time traveler, go back to 15th century England to rewrite the history of wars and prevent an apocalypse. Naturally, you're armed with 21st century gear. What idiot would go to the 15th century without an assault rifle? Think AK-47s, grenade launchers, helicopters, jeeps. You can even lead armies into epic battles. Gameplay blends third-person shooting with real-time strategy elements. Get stuck into close combat or issue commands, build fortifications, and coordinate assaults. It features real-time simulation with smart artificial intelligence. Each soldier thinks independently. That's cool. Also cool are the procedural animations making crowds look alive and react dynamically when things get messy. Plus, there's full environmental destruction from explosions and vehicle impacts. Looks seriously chaotic. On top of that, there's 4-player co-op, letting you and your buddies team up for raids. It looks incredibly vibrant. Probably not Game of the Year material, but definitely worth checking out. Painkiller. Okay, let's talk about the new Painkiller. This is the legendary comeback of a game that used to go head-to-head with Doom back in the day. We're talking about that classic Painkiller feel, the insane demon-slaying shooter from 2004, where you ripped through hordes to killer music. It's back as a full reboot, launching October 9th. This is a co-op FPS focused on pure, brutal combat. You play as one of 4 champions of Purgatory. Yeah, there are multiple now, each with unique perks. Your goal: stop the fallen angel Azrael from unleashing hell on Earth. The story is basically just there to set things up. You'll fight in massive, gothic environments against swarms of imps and giant bosses, using classic and new weapons, from stake guns to rocket launchers. If you prefer playing solo, they've confirmed full offline support, so you can slash demons without needing an internet connection. Super handy in 2025, right? It looks brutal and runs on Unreal Engine 5, so the visuals are solid. Honestly, it feels great based on the trailers. It actually reminds me more of Serious Sam, now because of the sheer number of monsters charging at you. And the gibs look incredibly satisfying. Yeah, this one's definitely on my list. Little Nightmares 3. Little Nightmares 3 launches right after Painkiller, literally the next day on October 10th. One big thing to note is that different developers are handling it this time. Supermassive Games, known for Until Dawn, took over the franchise after the previous devs, Tarsier Studios. This time, the game is built for co-op. You play as 2 friends, Lo and Alone, trying to escape a nightmarish world. It's still that atmospheric platformer with puzzles and stealth, where kids face off against giant monsters and twisted reality. The focus is now entirely on 2-player online co-op, or you can play solo with an AI. Companion. You need to work together to overcome obstacles, solve puzzles, and survive in places like the Necropolis or a derelict candy factory. They've also removed the HUD for full immersion, especially during those frantic monster chases. It feels really good because of that. Fingers crossed it turns out awesome. Ninja Gaiden 4. Alright, Ninja Gaiden 4. Ninja Gaiden 4. Team Ninja and Platinum Games, the studios behind Bayonetta and Nier, have teamed up to revive this legendary hack-and-slash series. You step into the role of a young ninja, Yakumo, battling cybernetic soldiers and otherworldly creatures in a futuristic Tokyo shrouded in miasma after the resurrection of an ancient enemy. The story ties into the legacy of Ryu Hayabusa from the older games, and you'll uncover a city-wide curse while blending epic narrative with high-speed combat. It's shaping up to feel something like Devil May Cry 5. The campaign isn't super long, probably around 15 to 20 hours, but it has replayability thanks to different builds you can create for your cybernetically enhanced ninja. Visually, though, it kinda gives me Dark Souls vibes for some reason. Not sure why, but it's there. Overall, looks like a solid weekend playthrough, maybe a bit longer. The Outer Worlds 2. Finally, for dessert, The Outer Worlds 2. The first game was an absolute blast, a planet-hopping adventure with crazy ways to handle any situation. I had a blast playing it. Now the devs are continuing the story. It launches October 29th, 5 days earlier for subscribers. It's still that same sci-fi first-person RPG where you play as a character investigating destructive rifts threatening humanity, landing on the colony of Arcadia, the birthplace of jump drive tech. A faction war is raging there, the benevolent protectorate versus religious rebels and corporate invaders. You decide who to trust, shaping the story through your choices, your crew, and your alliances. The cool character build system with perks is back too. You can spec into diplomacy for talking your way through things, or go all in on combat to blow stuff up. Oh, and you recruit companions again. Yes, with unique backstories, and they level up too. Graphics are powered by Unreal Engine 5 again. It looks beautiful, vibrant, and just really pleasing. Don't know about you, but I'm definitely waiting for this one. Really hoping they nail the optimization this time, though. The first game was, let's say, just okay in that department. Pretty sure I missed some other upcoming titles, so if you know any, drop them in the comments below for game like.